Okay, so here's a couple questions that you need to keep in mind if you're considering on buying chickens. First, you want to check your laws. Chickens aren't just for people that live out in the country. Towns do have, certain towns do allow you to have chickens, but you need to check and see what those requirements are, because sometimes a lot of towns will just say that you can only have hens, or they will put a limit on the number of chickens that you're allowed to have. So one of the things to consider is that roosters are very noisy. And so you have to remember, if you have close neighbors, that when your rooster's crowing at 5 a.m., it might not make your neighbor too happy. So keep those things in mind. There are, you can purchase just hens, and you can, I don't recommend just buying one chicken. The chickens like to be in groups. They like to be in little flocks. They're happier that way. So I would suggest you getting more than one, and definitely consider where you live, and check with your town's laws. The second question you probably should ask yourself is, do you have the time? Chickens don't take a whole lot of time compared to a lot of other animals, but you do need to make sure that they're fed and watered in the morning and fed and watered in the evening, and that their coop is cleaned out at least once a week. So make sure that you have the time to put in for the chicken, to care for the chickens. The next thing you should probably ask is, can you keep your chickens safe from predators? Now, my biggest predator around here is my yellow lab. Dogs are the #1 killer of chickens. But we kind of alleviated our worries because we let our dog out in the morning, and we let her run around for the morning, and then I put her in the pen in the afternoon, and then I let my chickens free range. But I never let them out at the same time, because that instinct in a lab to chase the chickens is just too great. Also, you need to make sure that your coop and your pen are set up so that you know, animals like foxes and hawks and owls cannot enter their pen or their coop. Because you know, that would definitely destroy your group there. Also, are you willing to invest a little bit of money for startup equipment? If you have a handyman that's a relative or someone close to you that can build a pen, really all you would need to buy are the supplies. Otherwise, if you purchase like a pre-built coop from a farm store, then you would be putting in quite a bit more money. So that's one of the things you want to consider. A chicken will lay regularly for 2 to 3 years, and after that, production will decrease about 20% per year on the number of eggs that you're getting. But chickens can live, some live up to 10 years or possibly more. So make sure that it's a long-term, that you're willing to kind of make a long-term commitment to your chickens, because they can live for many years. And the last thing you probably want to consider is, I have a chickie going to sleep here. Do you have space? You want to make sure that you have space enough in your backyard for a pen big enough to handle the number of chickens that you have. And we'll talk more about that a little later. So you've looked at your town laws, or you live out in the country, and you've decided that you have the space for your chickens, and you're willing to make that time and money investment into the equipment, and you have the space. So you find out that you can only have, your town only allows you to have hens. When you go into the farm store to purchase your chickens, how do you know what chicks to pick out? So one of the things you're going to look for is the signs where the chicks are being sold. You'll see something called sex-linked chicks, and what that means is that those particular chickens were bred so that when they were first hatched out, you could tell the difference between the males and the females, and then they were separated. So your sex-linked chicks, female, are going to be all female, so that you know when you're picking those chicks out of that bin that if it says sex linked on it, that those chicks will be hens, and that way you don't have to worry about that noisy rooster being in the bunch. The next term that you might not have heard of before is a straight run. If you see those two words, straight run, that means that those chicks are sold as a mixture of male and female chicks. If you see the word pullets, that means that's an immature female, and the word cockerel means that it's an immature male. Okay, so you've decided, you've bought your chicks, and but one of the things that you need to do is make sure that you have the proper equipment before you bring those chicks home with you. So while you're at the farm store, you are going to get your chicks, and they're going to come in a little box. They're going to put them in a little box like this with a little bit of pine shavings in there. And you're going to need a little housing structure for your chicks, and that little house for your chicks is called a brooder. And a brooder could be a variety of different things. Some people have used kiddie pools. Some people use plastic bins. If you buy the big metal bins that you see in the farm store, those are brooders. And then some people hand make some different structures out of different materials. Even large cardboard boxes can be used. Your chicks are only going to stay in there for a few weeks, so you know, then they're going to have to be moved to a larger pen or space. So the first equipment that you're going to need is your aside from your brooder, is your feeder. And this is a chick feeder here. This has a different holes where they can be, where they can all feed from, but it also keeps the feed clean from their bedding, so that you know, so that their food stays clean. This is the water, and it's filled up the same way. This is very, very shallow for chicks, so they won't be able to drown in something that's larger. A larger cup of water would be too much for them, so you want to make sure that you get a chick water so that your chicks won't drown. And as you can see in the bottom of this, we have our pine bedding in the bottom that can be cleaned out as necessary. One of the important things is, since these chicks were bought at a farm store without their mama, they need to be kept warm like they would be if the chicks were under their mom's wings. So when you first bring them home, that first week, they are usually kept at using a heat lamp, and that is usually set so that it's 95 degrees, and with each week as they get older, that temperature decreases by 5 degrees. So you can adjust this to a higher setting to make it cooler or warmer by adjusting your heat lamp. This heat lamp is a 250 watt bulb, and it has a metal safety guard around it. That's to keep it from burning. If that bulb was placed directly on the plastic, of course it would melt the plastic. So this metal rim helps protect, is a safety guard. It is recommended that you use the shavings instead of newspaper. Newspaper can get slippery and can cause the chicks to grow so that their legs aren't really you know, aren't as strong as they could be, or not grow properly. Could cause their legs not to grow properly. So we recommend the pine bedding instead of newspaper. I want to show you this feed is called a crumble. It's really fine, and we'll go back to that for a minute. This feed is really, really fine to start chicks on. It's called crumble. And then after the chick gets to be about 10 weeks old, then they're put on a starter grower. And if you look at the size of this pellet and this feed, you can see that it's a little bit bigger. That's their grower feed, and that will be started at 10 weeks. And then they move on when they get to be adult chickens and they're laying, then they would go to a layer feed, and that has about 16% protein and extra calcium for your egg layers. Thank you for joining us today to hear about our Children and Chickens program. I hope you join us next time because we're going to be talking about the supplies you need and space you need for your hens and roosters as they grow and as they transition from their brooder into an outside pen and coop. So please join us for that next program. Thank you again.